I'm starting with a story about law, faith, and public schools in South Carolina. In 2013, a high school valedictorian named Roy Costner IV walked to the podium at Liberty High School with an improved graduation speech in his hand. When he began to speak, he tore up the script. Instead, he recited the Lord's Prayer to thunderous applause and cheers from the crowd. For many people, his prayer was an act of courage and faith. For others, it raised serious questions about the separation of church and state in public school setting. The high school valedictorian speech captures the tension at the heart of this project between the prohibition on government-established religion and the individual free exercise or expression of religion in a public educational environment. A guiding question emerges. Why does South Carolina continue to support visible Christian expression in its public schools, even after decades of Supreme Court decisions that restrict school-sponsored prayer, displays of the Ten Commandments, and other devotional practices? To explore this question, a legal historical approach is used. I start with two Supreme Court cases, Engel versus Vitale and Stone versus Graham, which set national boundaries on school prayer and displays of the Ten Commandments. Then the focus narrows to issues within South Carolina. The Anderson versus Chesterfield County School District case of 2011 challenged school practices that many families viewed as long-standing traditions. The Costner graduation prayer wasn't a teenage stunt. It was a symbolic protest. It was a way of saying that public faith should not be pushed out of the civic ceremonies. Later, the legislature attempted to pass religious viewpoints anti-discrimination bills that reframe student religious speech as a free speech and a free access issue, rather than a violation of the Establishment Clause. Historical context helps explain why these issues persist. Historians of Southern religion, Christine Leigh Harriman, Paul Harvey, Mark Knoll, and John Wigger, show how evangelical Christianity became woven into Southern civic identity long before modern legal disputes. This work shows that debates over prayer, values, and public expression in schools are not simply legal disagreements. They reflect cultural memory and regional traditions that remain influential across generations. In each of these episodes, South Carolina is not openly defying the Supreme Court. Instead, it works creatively to protect space for Christian expression in and around schools. These tensions matter for contemporary educators and policymakers. South Carolina law includes a mandated Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, practices that sit at the intersection of civic ritual and personal belief. The challenge is balancing constitutional limits with respect for religious liberty for all students. The same event can appear as courageous witness to one group and unconstitutional pressure to another, revealing how deeply these issues shape the state's identity. South Carolina's story shows how difficult that balance is in practice. This project does not offer answers, but attempts to explain why these conflicts keep returning to the state's public schools. Thank you for your attention.